The desert wind howled across the wasted land, carrying grit that stung like needles. She lay in the dirt, wrists bound tight with coarse rope, the fibers biting so deep they burned. Every twitch of her fingers only made the knots cut further, and still, she pulled. Her lips were cracked, her throat raw. She tried to swallow, but her mouth was dry as bone. Above her, a circling crow let out a cry that echoed over the empty plain like a funeral bell. Boots crunched against the dust. Heavy, slow, cruel. Her stepfather crouched down in front of her, breath thick with whiskey and rot. His hat cast a shadow that swallowed her face, but his words came sharp, cold. "You think I don't know? You think you can hide shame from me? That thing you carry, it ain't mine, but you'll pay for it." She flinched as he spat tobacco into the dirt beside her cheek. Tears welled, but she bit them back, trembling. "It's not mine," she whispered, barely a breath. He yanked the rope once tighter, grinning at her cry of pain. "Doesn't matter. You're a curse your mama left me with, and curses don't get second chances." With that, he stood, turned his back, and staggered toward the saloon lights in the distance. His boots left deep prints in the sand, marking his trail of cowardice. She twisted again, wrists raw, blood smearing against the rope. The sun glared down mercilessly, baking her skin until it felt like fire. Dust filled her nose, her throat, choking every breath. She gasped, looking to the horizon as though someone, anyone, might come. But the plain stretched endless and empty, the silence broken only by her ragged sob. Her head fell forward, chin touching the rope that bound her. She whispered again, softer, as if to herself. "It's not mine." The wind carried her words away, scattering them like ashes. The crow above swooped lower, its shadow crossing her body like a dark omen. Her strength slipped. Her arms sagged, her body slumped. The desert claimed her silence, leaving only the sound of rope creaking against strained wood, and still, the horizon burned gold with the setting sun, its light cold, indifferent, merciless. The desert evening bled into night. The sun slid behind the ridges, leaving the sky bruised purple and red. Shadows stretched long over the ground, crawling like fingers across her body. She hung by her wrists, bound tight, every breath shallow. Her skin blistered from the heat of the day, now chilled by the creeping cold of dusk. The rope cut deeper with every twitch of her shoulders, and still she fought, because silence meant death. Her lips trembled. She whispered again, broken but desperate. "It's not mine." The words were caught by the wind, carried out over the open plain where no one answered. Her mind reeled in fragments. Memories bled through the pain. Her mother's face, pale in a coffin. The church bells tolling. The gambler stepfather leaning on the doorframe, smirking as he said, "She left me nothing but trouble. And trouble's all you'll ever be." She saw the night he staggered home, pockets empty from dice and cards. He blamed her for every loss, every debt. And when the whispers of townfolk spread that she carried a child not his, he roared with drunken fury. "You'll wear the shame till it breaks you," he had said. Then the rope, the dirt, the desert. A coyote howled in the distance, its cry sharp and cruel, echoing her own despair. She tilted her head, eyes searching the horizon. Nothing but emptiness, her vision blurred. She felt her heartbeat slowing, a heavy drum fading under her ribs. The stars above began to smear together, swirling like distant lanterns she could never reach. Her knees buckled. Her body slumped forward, the rope jerking her back like a noose. Her skin tore, wrists bleeding into the coarse fibers. The desert wind rose, sweeping across her face, filling her mouth with dust. She coughed, choking, eyes watering. "It's not mine." She gasped again, voice breaking into silence, her head dropped. Darkness pressed in from the edges, swallowing the desert whole. But somewhere in that void, faint, almost imagined, she heard the creak of leather. The distant clop of hooves against dry earth. Her lips parted, hope flickering one last time before her strength slipped away. Night had fallen hard over the desert. The stars burned sharp above, scattered across the black sky, but the ground below was blind and merciless. A lone rancher rode through the darkness, lantern swaying from his saddle horn. Each step of his horse crunched dry gravel. the sound carrying through the silence like a warning. His face was weathered, lined by years of sun and storms, but his eyes stayed sharp, scanning the shadows. The horse stopped suddenly, ears pricked. The rancher tightened his grip on the reins. "What is it, boy?" he muttered. Then he heard it. A faint sound, hoarse, broken. "Help." The rancher swung down, boots sinking into the dust. Lantern light spilled across the ground, trembling with each step he took. And then he saw her, a young woman, crumpled against the post, wrists tied raw and bleeding. Her hair clung to her face, her body limp. For a moment he thought she was already gone. He knelt, holding the lantern close. Her chest rose shallow, fragile as a candle flame. "Easy now," he whispered, voice steady, gentle. "You're safe." Her eyelids fluttered, and in that flicker of life she whispered again. "It's not mine." The rancher's jaw tightened. He pulled his knife from his belt, sliding the blade against the rope. The fibers snapped, falling into the dust like dead snakes. She slumped forward and he caught her in his arms. "Don't you give up on me," he said firmly, voice low but commanding. "Not tonight." She shivered, clutching weakly at his coat, her words broken, desperate. He'll come back." The rancher glanced at the darkness beyond the lantern's glow, his hand steadying her. "Not if I've got a say in it." He lifted her, cradling her as though she weighed nothing, and laid her gently across his horse. The animal snorted, restless, but held steady under the burden. The rancher mounted, lantern swaying as the horse began to move again. Behind them, the rope lay in the dirt, stained with her blood, left to rot in the desert wind. The night swallowed them whole, but the lantern burned on, small, fragile, but defiant against the dark. The cabin sat quiet at the edge of the prairie, a lonely shape against the moonlit hills. Smoke curled from the chimney, faint and thin, while a lantern glowed inside, warm against the night's chill. The rancher pushed the door open with his shoulder, carrying her across the threshold. The hinges groaned, wood creaking under the weight of years. He laid her gently on a cot near the hearth, pulling a wool blanket around her trembling frame. The fire snapped, throwing orange light across the room. Shadows stretched along the walls, flickering like ghosts of the past. Her eyes opened slowly. Confusion clouded them, fear quick behind it. She clutched her stomach, whispering again, the same words that had haunted her lips all along. "It's not mine." The rancher crouched beside her, voice steady, low like a prayer. "You don't owe me explanations, miss. Only thing you need to know is this: no harm's gonna touch you here." She searched his face, as if testing whether the promise was real. Then her head sank back onto the pillow, though her body remained tight, restless, like a deer ready to flee. Outside, the wind shifted. Gravel crunched beneath heavy boots. The rancher rose, his hand sliding toward the rifle by the door. The girl's breath caught. She knew that sound too well. Through the small cabin window, a shadow drifted across the glass. A slurred voice followed, heavy with whiskey. "Girl, don't make this harder. You know you belong to me." Her face drained of color. She buried her mouth in the blanket to stop the sob from escaping. The rancher stood still as stone, eyes fixed on the window, finger brushing the rifle stock. The shadow lingered, pacing. Boots scraped the porch. For a long, endless moment, it seemed the door would burst open under his weight. Then silence. The boots retreated, crunching back into the darkness. The girl exhaled shakily, tears slipping free. The rancher knelt once more, his presence steady as bedrock. "He won't have you," he said, quiet but certain. "Not tonight." Not ever again. The fire burned brighter, its glow fighting back the chill that crept in from the door. Dawn broke over the plains in streaks of gold and ash. The wagon wheels creaked as the rancher steered his team into town, dust rising behind them in a long trail. The young woman sat beside him, shoulders wrapped in a patched blanket, her eyes darting from one wooden storefront to the next, as though danger lurked behind every shutter. The townsfolk stopped to stare. Whispers rippled through the street like snakes in tall grass. She kept her head low, clutching the blanket tight. The rancher pulled the horses to a halt outside the sheriff's office. The sign swung gently in the morning breeze, its paint faded but its weight of authority still strong. He helped her down, steadying her as she stepped onto the boardwalk, her knees still weak from the night before. The door creaked open. Sheriff Hardin emerged, a tall man with iron-gray hair and a gaze that missed nothing. His badge caught the sunlight, glinting sharp against the dust. "What's this you've brought me, Caleb?" the sheriff asked, voice rough as gravel. The rancher tipped his hat. "A girl who's seen more cruelty than a lifetime ought to bear. She needs protection." The sheriff's eyes softened when they fell on her bruised wrists. "Who tied you like that, miss?" She swallowed hard, voice trembling. "My stepfather."
"He says I carry—"
His shame. "But it's not mine. It never was." Her words cracked in the middle, but the sheriff leaned closer, steady as a preacher at prayer. "You don't need to prove yourself to me. Truth has a way of coming out, no matter how men try to bury it." The rancher folded his arms. "You'll stand for her, won't you?" "Because if you don't, I will." The sheriff's gaze hardened, steel beneath the calm. "I'll stand. But you both ought to know. That outlaw has friends meaner than rattlers. He won't back down easy." The girl lowered her eyes, but her whisper carried strong enough to hear. "I don't care. I just want it to end." The sheriff nodded slowly, the weight of the law heavy on his shoulders. "Then it ends here." Inside the office, the lantern was lit again, casting its glow against wanted posters lining the wall. For the first time, hope flickered in her chest, fragile but alive. Night fell like a curtain over the prairie, heavy and suffocating. The wind whispered through the tall grasses, carrying with it the distant clatter of hooves. Lanterns swung in the cabin windows, casting flickering shadows that danced like restless spirits. Outside, the quiet shattered. Torches ignited in the darkness, flames snapping against the black sky. 4 riders emerged from the tree line, their silhouettes jagged and menacing. Boots struck the earth in rhythm with their horses' gallop, hooves thundering like war drums. The girl froze, clutching the blanket around her. "He's back," she whispered, voice trembling. The rancher stepped in front of her, stance wide, hand brushing the rifle by the door. His jaw was set, eyes hard as flint. "They won't take you," he said, voice low, steady. "Not tonight." Shouts cut through the night, carried on the wind. "Hand her over, Caleb, or we burn this place to ash." The torches flared closer, their light casting long, sinister shadows on the cabin walls. One of the men leaned forward, a cruel grin splitting his face. The girl's breath caught in her throat. Her wrists itched from old rope burns, her heart hammering. The rancher moved silently, rifle ready, boots crunching against the wooden floor. Each shadowed movement was precise, deliberate. He kept her behind him, body a shield. A lantern fell from the porch, shattering against the boards. Sparks flew, igniting dry grass near the steps. Horses whinnied, restless in the firelight. One of the gang members raised a rifle. The rancher's voice cut like a whip. "Step back!" Not a move closer. The outlaws hesitated, the wind carrying the weight of that command. For a heartbeat, time stretched. The girl clung to the rancher's coat, whispering, her voice steadier now. "You can't. You can't take me!" The lead outlaw snarled, shaking his head. "She belongs to me." The rancher's eyes narrowed. "Not tonight. Not ever." The gang hesitated again, tension tight as a drawn bow. The firelight flickered across their faces, revealing doubt creeping into their drunken bravado. Dust rose under the hooves, fire crackled, lanterns swayed. The night was alive with threat. Yet inside the cabin a fragile glow of hope persisted, burning against the darkness. The night exploded. Gunfire cracked like lightning over the prairie, hot lead tearing through dry air. Horses reared and stamped, hooves pounding against dirt as lanterns toppled, spilling firelight across the dust-strewn ground. The rancher moved like a shadow, rifle steady, eyes sharp. Every shot found its mark, but still the gang pressed forward, desperation in their eyes. The girl crouched behind the cabin, clutching the blanket, heart hammering against her ribs. "They're coming for you!" she cried, voice breaking. The rancher glanced back, calm steel in his gaze. "Then we'll make sure they leave empty-handed." The sheriff and his deputies arrived, horses kicking up clouds of dust, rifles raised, boots slamming against the earth. Their presence shifted the tide, the thrum of authority colliding with the chaos of outlaws. The lead outlaw spat, furious, realizing the odds had turned. "This ain't over," he shouted, voice raw with rage. Bullets ricocheted off cabin walls, splintering wood and sending sparks flying. The girl's breath came in short, sharp gasps, but she refused to look away. She saw the rancher standing firm, a wall between her and the storm, eyes blazing with unwavering resolve. The gang faltered under the combined fire of law and skill. One by one, their courage crumbled. Horses bolted, boots scrambled on the dirt. Dust rose in choking clouds, carrying the scent of gunpowder and sweat. The lead outlaw tried to flee into the canyon, but a deputy's rifle rang out. He tumbled, chained and captured, his men disarmed and rounded up like cattle. The girl stepped forward, voice trembling yet strong. You can't take my soul from me." The rancher placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Never again," he said. "Not ever." The night settled slowly. Torches burned low, embers glowing faintly. The smell of smoke hung in the air, mixing with the earth and dust. Silence returned, heavy but safe, broken only by the distant whinny of horses.